Hello, friends. Merry Christmas, and welcome to another episode of the Doom Mixtape. Now, I'm going to be returning to the old faithful well of talking about one particular mapper from the Russian / Ukrainian, I guess, because he's actually Ukrainian, Doom community, which is, of course, Azamail, aka Michailo Kolybenko. I'm going to guess that's how you pronounce it. And, of course, if you followed my previous videos, you know I am obsessed with the work of this particular mapper. We can talk about why, but I mostly talked about his contributions to A.L.T, which was his last big set, and definitely the sort of something I consider a masterpiece from the Doom community, just in general as a work of art. However, there are a lot of things to look at from before this, including from this release from 2009 named Heroes Tales. Now, Heroes Tales is like an earlier basically compilation WAD from the Russian Doom community, with a lot of the sort of names that, you know, are associated with that community, like Lanos and Shadow Man, Archie, Wraith, Dragon Hunter, etc. But also Azamail contributed a couple maps, and these are speed maps that were done mostly during a speed mapping competition over the course of, I think, a few days. No, 4 hours length. Only 4 hours were allowed. So these were made very quickly. And so there are quite a few Russian speed mapping sets, including this one, but also Whitemare, which is more obviously Christmas themed. Whitemare and Whitemare 2 are more well known. But I don't know. There's a reason why I'm talking about Azamail on Christmas, partly just because I just find his style and map so interesting, even in this kind of elementary form. But yeah, Azamail started mapping in 2008, as far as I can tell, or at least those were his first releases. And this is from 2009, so this was either from a speed mapping set done in 2008 or 2009. I'm going to guess 2009 because Heroes Tales is compiled from, according to the info file, a few different sessions, and there's one themed around city maps that were done in 2009. So anyway, this map is called Upper Town. It's very short, but even in this map you can see just all the little, I don't know how to describe it. It's just very playful design. There are a lot of interesting sort of decorations. A thing that Azamail does in his maps, and I see this a lot in Russian maps, but particularly his maps, is there are just a lot of doors that don't work. They're just there. It's kind of like, it makes me think of like a Silent Hill game where, you know, half the thing is just trying and seeing if a door works. This background right here is a very Azamail thing. He likes to do these kinds of like scenery backdrops that you can't even really get to. And sort of over the course of sort of seeing more of his maps, he made maps not just for Heroes Tales, but for a few other things. He had a couple of maps called Time of Sorrow, which was a very ambitious like GZ Doom map. Oh yeah, this is like this kind of double teleporter and eye thing is also kind of a surreal Azamail thing. They're just kind of a very like playful and non-standard like way that you interact with objects. I don't know how to describe. It's a little bit cartoony. Like he has a little bit of a little bit of more of like an artistic style in terms of like interactions. But even in the midst of like some of the crypticness or the fact that you can't open certain doors, like usually it's very the design feels very conscious, which is the thing that I think differentiates Azamail from a lot of like, you know, modding community modders. Is his design always feels to some degree like conscious of like what it's doing and self-aware. I don't know if those are like plugs or what. I am just impressed with anyone who can make a functional map in 4 hours. So yeah, like obviously this isn't a huge visual like showstopper. It's a pretty short map, but just the fact that this was made so quickly, and it really gets in and gets out. 'Cause some of the other maps on this map set, Heroes Tales, which I played through a few years back. Some of them are really long and have like really obvious copy paste to them to make them like this more epic experience, except you're like, just going through long encounters and a similar place. Oh yes, okay, helipad. So many people in the Doom community have complained that you can tell someone's a first time or amateur mapper if they put a helipad in their level. And yet here we go. Azamail has one here. I like this ambush when this is not a difficult level by any means, but the fact that he's doing this ambush here. I also like the way that Azamail uses the red brick Wolfenstein 3D texture, and also the fact that there are like these columns kind of peeking out in this area where the Hell Knight ambush was, that you can sort of climb down onto. They don't serve any purpose, but like for a later map set like A.L.T, this kind of thing would serve a purpose. And there's always I feel like a very thoughtful use of like vertical space, and you kind of using your wits to just be observational and like observe environmental details so that you can really like look for secrets or just hidden bits and pieces of a level. And he's even doing it a little bit here, even though it's not fully sketched out, in the course of a map that was made in 4 hours, which I think is really cool. And yeah, I think it is absolutely the right thing to just make a small map in 4 hours instead of trying to do copy paste, which some of the other mappers did for this particular set. But yeah, he released a few things in 2008, one of which we're going to talk about after this, and then Heroes Tales, which he has 2 maps from, this one and the next map, which I'm almost finished with already. And I think especially with the second map, you really start to observe his style. Like, there's another the first set by Clan BOS, who is the aka Best of Survivors, who is the kind of clan that made Sacrament and A.L.T, which are the main ones I talk about a lot, especially A.L.T. But their first set is called Da Will, and it's made for TNT. .wad, which this also is as well for some reason. I don't really know why this is made for TNT. I just know that TNT, the episode of Final Doom TNT, is very popular in the Russian modding community. I think because of just this, the attempt to replicate real life spaces, which of course you can see here in a lot of Azamail's maps, including a lot of his maps in A.L.T. Like the early city maps in A.L.T, definitely. I'm just kind of exploring back through the level, but even like with the rudimentary like detailing and stuff that is done, it's still pretty nice. Like, and it gives, even if it doesn't look like textbook pretty, it gives like a feeling of texture and playfulness to the environment, which I feel like is his strength. Which I really care about more than something that screenshots well, because there are a lot of things in the Doom community that screenshot well and look very cool as spaces, but don't necessarily play that way. So yeah, this is his next map in the set called Starport, and this one feels like a kind of like a prototype version of the kind of level that you would play in A.L.T, like the early city levels in A.L.T. This really reminds me of a handful of early levels in A.L.T, except obviously it was made in a short period of time. But this one's a little bit more impressive in terms of what is being done here. So we have a big ambush here at the beginning. You can see like all the details, like just in like little details along the floor. There was a big sort of machine looking thing above you right at the beginning, and like shadows on that and everything like that. Again, like not that unusual for the Doom community, but it really adds this feeling of just texture and overall, I don't know, there's a very artistic touch to it. And I'm not saying that it's like, he's not somebody who's like, Moldy, aka Syriac Harris, or somebody like that, who's like maybe a super trained, well-known visual artist, but it's just good at giving texture to a world and kind of this feeling of like playfulness. And I don't know, as a big fan of Tom Hall, who was of course one of the designers of Doom and Commander Keen and all that, Tom Hall's level designs are also very playful, and I see some similarity to that. I actually played some of Tom Hall's like recent Pico 8 games that he made, and I don't know, it just got me thinking about that. But there is something a little bit more surreal and like falling apart about these Azamail maps that I find really fascinating and was captured so beautifully by A.L.T. But the thing I was going to say about De Will, by the way, was that it's made for TNT, and Azamail has a map in it, it's kind of an interesting map, but it's a lot more conventional of a Doom map, and you don't really see his kind of quirks in it in the same way that you do in these like early jam maps. And it's perhaps just because like he couldn't help but show his style in these maps because they were made so quickly. There's a nice little secret here just with the backpack of ammo, but yeah, I like this little thing. It doesn't look like much of anything, but it just adds with the shadows and everything, it adds an interesting detail. And when there's like bits of detail in his maps, it feels like chunky and kind of like tangible in a way that sometimes detail in other Doom maps just kind of feels like it's there, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any significance. I don't know. It's more apparent when you really play some of his later maps, but I think because I became so obsessed with A.L.T, I really just wanted to, see as much of this particular author's work as possible, because there is just something there that I don't feel like I see in Doom mods or just in indie games in general very often. There's just this very particular sensibility, really specific to Azamail. Some of the Russian modders too, but like Azamail in particular, there's something about his maps that just really, really stands out to me. And it's hard to sometimes identify, especially when you become so obsessed with something that is so like kind of niche in a way. And I think that's how I felt, when I first started playing A.L.T, is I kind of didn't even understand why I liked this thing as much as I did, or had the feelings that I had about it in terms of being like important or whatever. And that kind of made me feel frustrated. And that's why I kind of tried to like write about it and stuff. But a lot of it, really comes down to this particular author, really comes down to Azamail's design sensibility and his maps. Certainly not just Azamail, but yeah. And I don't really think I have a clear answer. I mean, he's not participating in the Doom community anymore. Obviously, he left after A.L.T. I tried to find his blog, and he hasn't updated since around 2012 or something. I didn't really find any newer posts on iddq.ru, the Russian hub website. So I assume he just moved on from the Doom community, and that's fine. I don't know, I feel like a weirdo being obsessed with this stuff, but I'd feel like, if you're going to talk about it at all, you might as well talk about the things that you really like. But yeah, anyway, he did a few other sets. There's one called Time of Sorrow, which is a GZ Doom, like a couple levels in GZ Doom. And that also, you can really feel like elements of A.L.T in there, but he has a lot of like fancier features, and those were kind of like like GZ Doom features, and those were kind of stripped down for A.L.T and Sacrament, which were Boom compatible, and I think in a more effective way. 'Cause some of those features, like it's a little more garish in that particular set. Like there's a lot of interesting ideas, but it doesn't cohere as well to me. So I think there's something about A.L.T and Sacrament makes those sets really cohere in a way that a lot of the other stuff does, especially like the speed map sets from the Russian Doom community, because there's a lot of speed mapping sets and I've never liked them nearly as much as the like White Mare or stuff like that. I've never liked them nearly as much as some of the other stuff that's more developed. But I think I just feel that way in general about speed maps. I guess like I have talked about some speed maps on here, like including this obviously, but also the Joy of Mapping set. But those were made in a few days as opposed to like, 4 hours. I think 4 hours is a really tough restriction, and it's a fun exercise for the people who are making it. Apparently this set was very helpful and useful for like growing the Russian Doom community into what it became. And it kind of, gave them more confidence to expand on some of the ideas that were in here. So I think without this set, it's possible that, Sacrament and A.L.T and all those other things wouldn't have existed. Because while they were certainly already kind of established Russian Doom modders, like Eternal or Shadow Man, I'm sure had released multiple things by this point. It didn't really develop into like some of those mappers in the early 2010s, like Lenos and Azamail and Bwin and Archie and all those. This is my favorite area here. I really just like the use that he gets out of the red brick texture, but there's also this kind of like it just makes me think of like Mario 64, this like playful like playground space where there's all these like different little details and things going on here. Like there's this area in a cage here that you can look through with the dead Marine, and there's nothing there. It just goes, but you can see like put all the details on the ceiling and stuff, but it just suggests that a deeper detail. There's some blood there. And then when you crawl up here, there's like this like machine looking thing. I don't know. It's just very, very playful and kind of nice seeming. Also, he does a lot of stuff with stairways, like really, really high and really dramatic sort of staircases. Like this is that goes to the end part of the level, and it's a very kind of dramatic entrance. It's just details that like a lot of other mappers wouldn't even necessarily think to do, because they're in the mindset of this has to look like a Doom level, or their references are so much other things in the Doom community that they don't really just think about doing that kind of stuff. But one thing I should amend from like all my talk about A.L.T is that there are so many like anime references in the titles, like especially like Evangelion. I hadn't really seen Evangelion, before I like before I played the set or started talking about it. But there's like multiple Evangelion references in the title, and I think there's a very strong like anime influence and sensibility in the like Azamail maps in particular. Here's another. This is like, it's kind of like a ruined city, but like this is a nice small room and there's like a whole machine there. I don't know, it just feels like a lot of the Tom Hall maps. Tom Hall is like very good at kind of imagining what some place could be and how it could function, even within like very abstract means. He has like a very good imagination, and that's something that I also see in the Azamail maps, but it's a different era, so obviously the spaces are more detailed and it has this like more slightly surreal anime sensibility. So here's the big area of this map. There's this big spaceship at the end. This is probably the thing that makes me think the most of his like later alt maps. It is kind of a rushed like ambush. It's not that interesting as an encounter. I'm mostly just going around to hit like 4 switches around this part of the level and just taking care of these guys, and it's going to take me probably too long. Like if you were making this map in more than 4 hours, you'd probably try and like refine this encounter so you're not just like wandering around a circle. And like usually he colors out these details more, but there's just like a few buildings there. Even with the few buildings there, it's a kind of a nice detail. I'm like assuming that the teleporters do something, but I don't think they really do anything. So there are 2 arch files up in the cockpit of the spaceship. But yeah, the spaceship part definitely makes me think of like, the later maps in A.L.T that are like bigger scale and more surreal, like, I don't know, map 20, 28, 29. Yeah. But yeah, you're basically going to see me going around killing these guys. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes to a lot of the sort of dedicated people within the Doom modding community take influence from the same handful of places, whether it be other mappers in the modding community, or like the original maps, or like maps from other first-person shooters kind of the same era, and like basically milieu or whatever you want to call it of Doom. So you tend to get the same kind of approaches a lot of the time, but that's just not really true with the Russian Doom community. I don't think a lot of, like, if there are FPSs that are big in Russia, it's not the same ones. Like, it's it's just a different kind of approach, and it's the same with the Japanese Doom community set, which is why I think this stuff is really important, and why like a big English-speaking hub, can't kind of cover and account for everything, as much as I like Doom World and all that kind of stuff. But it also just makes me sad that this community was like very fragile. It didn't exist for that long. I mean, the Russian Doom community, of course, still exists, but like the Clan BOS and all that kind of stuff, this particular era of the community didn't exist for that long. And even like in that interview that I did, that I quoted, that I read from in the Lanos map, the 5 till level 1 complex, or Still Lone complex, or whatever it's called. Even Lanos was kind of sensing that a lot of the kind of creative spark was kind of going out of the community. Whereas you can kind of see the beginning of it, the origins, the first kind of sparks of it in Heroes Tales in particular, which is why I think it's a really interesting set, even though there are some levels that are just tedious as hell. There are some other ones that are good. And of course, I don't want to, just act like Azamail is the only interesting mapper, but I think there is something about his maps in particular that I keep coming back to, and I would talk about all of them if I hadn't talked about them to death already. But yeah, here I'm just taking care of these arch files and, taking care of the rest of these guys. So yeah, it seems like from his Doom Wiki page, there's a handful of just like fairly small Doom WODs, including like he made like a My House WOD called Mysterious House. So pretty typical beginner Doom stuff. And then Heroes Tales and also oh yes, he made another map in Heroes Tales called Evil Inside that I'm not talking about because I don't think it's as interesting. I completely forgot about that. Completely memory hold it. But yeah, if you like these 2 maps, definitely check it out. It's pretty short, and it has some of the kind of hell themes of his later maps in A.L.T. But I think it's like not quite as well done, which is why I like these 2 city maps. And this is a good kind of thing to summarize where he would, was about to go with his maps. And I haven't talked about it his maps officially from Sacrament, like on a Doom mixtape. I talked about them on a stream, but obviously those are both very, very good maps. Some of his best maps, honestly, Wood Prison and Seaport. He has a heretic a heretic set called Blood, Fire, Death, which I've never played. I'm not really a heretic person, but maybe I will sometime. And then, of course, the Da Will, which I talked about, and then Sacrament and A.L.T, and that's it. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's just difficult. You don't know how to. You don't really know how to like. Yeah, I'm looking at his blog right now. This in Ukrainian, and the last post is from 2011. So even before like he was done with the Doom community, he wasn't blogging anymore. I like a lot of people, I assume that Azamail was probably pretty young, probably, you know, in his teens to early 20s. I'll make that assumption. And, you know, like a lot of people just probably moved on into adulthood. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing unusual about that. That's why modding communities are nice. People don't have to have a career in in game dev or whatever. But sometimes it's weird, like when I go back and look at sets like Memento Mori in particular, where there are like people who, you know, made, like, I'm thinking of Paul Noble, who made the Silos, which is one of my favorite Doom maps. And then he never really made anything after that. And I think he posted on Doom World once to say he like worked in tech or so, you know, just had a normal like white collar job. And it's like, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's like most of the people in the Doom community. That's what they are. They're hobbyists. It just bums me out that they didn't try to continue to, you know, work on the creative stuff, that they weren't able to find a way to do that. And I think it can be hard because with community stuff, as much as I love community stuff, it like a lot really interesting ideas can be lost kind of within this community framework that might value like specific names or specific, you know, things as being kind of this canonical thing that represents the community. That kind of, yeah, I'm just showing you the spaceship once more. There's these sort of canonical things that like represent what a community is oftentimes that might not be necessarily the things that you like the most. I don't know, that's always been my experience, not just with like the Doom community, although it is with the Doom community, but also with just like, I don't know, prestige critic bait in general, like things that get well reviewed on websites. Games or music or movies that get well reviewed are not always the things that I have the most emotional, you know, reaction to or response to. But because like Doom modding is so niche, it's like even harder to pull that stuff out, which is kind of makes it hard. Okay, so that's the end of Heroes Tales, but I wanted to end with one other thing. So this is Snow 2008 by Azamail. This is his Christmas map. So Merry Christmas, everyone. This is a Z-Doom map. Very short map. I hope everyone's having a good Christmas. Stuff has been kind of fucked here in New York City because of pandemic sort of raging again. A lot of stuff shut down. Plans canceled, and it ain't even snowing like it was last year. It snowed like a bunch last year here. There's not much to this map. The imps have lovely Santa hats, as do the chain gunners, which you'll see in a second. We got the nice snow sprites. It's just very festive. Like, Azamail seems like the perfect person who could just make like an indie game, you know, that isn't even necessarily Doom, but is themed around like jumping around and exploring a town and maybe like puzzle solving and things like that. That would just be a perfect like Azamail thing. And as somebody who really appreciates this map, his maps in general, like that's just something I like very selfishly want to see, which is why it's just kind of a bummer that I don't know if he's going to do anything else, like doing any other game dev projects. Most people in the Doom community don't like end up moving on to game dev in other ways, so it is what it is, but sometimes it bums me out. Yeah. But yeah, I also did a Christmas stream that I posted on my channel that you can see. I played a bunch of Christmas-themed games. I've been playing stuff on Twitch, not just Doom stuff. I played a little bit of a very strange and unnerving Wolfenstein 3D mod called Hotel Romanstein, and some other stuff as well. And I definitely... Oh, there we go. There's our chain gunner friend with his nice Santa beard. And I definitely want to make some more Doom map stuff. It's going to happen at some point, outside of the one that I made for Joy of Mapping 6, I think. But yeah. Yeah, hopefully wherever you are, you're having a nice Christmas, even in the midst of all the craziness. I'm trying to count my blessings and just remember that a lot of things could be a lot worse, and I have a roof over my head. Sometimes it's hard to remember that. But that's what Christmas is all about. I like the snowman. You can tell that this is a Z-Doom mod because there's some slopes there. I like that there's one dead Marine there. I'm not really sure what the narrative purpose of that is, if any. I like the snowball sniper imps. It's an underrated genre. We love arrows. Snow-themed Doom maps is an underrated genre, and I think Whitemare really did a good job just by, being themed around it, even though I think it's like Whitemare 2 and 3. There's some good maps in there, but it's pretty inconsistent. But yeah, I just wish there were more snow-themed Doom maps. It's a good theme, I think. Not just for Doom maps, but for games in general. Snow just looks really nice and pretty. We love our slopes. It is interesting to me how he made several Z-Doom mods and then kind of switched over to doing a boom map set, because that is kind of like, maybe it is because it's kind of I like the just putting a bunch of keys there. That's definitely a thing that Azamail has did in a lot of other maps. I guess because boom map sets are kind of viewed as the canonical thing now in the Doom community. That's the kind of mainstream accepted. If you make the big prestige map set, it's like a boom megawad. Used to be a vanilla megawad. Now it's like a boom compatible megawad. I guess because people just like the original features of the game. I'm a lot more privy to the GZ Doom stuff now, because I think there are some really cool things that you can do with it that expand it outside the realm of Doom. But there is something just uncanny about kind of pushing a lot of the original kind of limits, the original kind of, style of game to its limits. And that really is what boom map sets are about. Things that still feel like Doom, but are, far bigger scope. Oh, it looks like we're coming to the end with the evil red Santa. Oh no. It's okay though. The evil red snowman, did I say Santa? Well, I'm sure Santa is evil too. This is the snowman that's being sacrificed. Bye-bye. Alright, that was snow. I hope you all have a good Christmas and have happy holidays and have a good new year in general. More videos will be coming in the future. Just stay tuned. If you're interested, subscribe to my Patreon and I'll put some, I'll put updates on my Patreon. But also I'll post stream archives and stuff too, on here as well. But anyway, I will see you in the new year. Have a wonderful day.